Hello and welcome to I Am Well podcast. I'm your host Gemma, a nutritionist and a hormonal fasting coach, passionate about self-development through a holistic lens. But my biggest mission is to help empower women and get them to reconnect and trust their bodies again. So if you're a woman who just wants to better herself and live her best life, you're listening to the right podcast. So let's get to it. Hello everyone and welcome back to I Am Well podcast. Thank you for listening in again. Today is our Wellness Wednesdays. So today I am talking about fasting again. Now on my Wellness Wednesday episodes, I won't always be talking about fasting, but obviously that is one of the tools I'm very passionate about. So today we are going to jump into that again. I just want to remind you all that if you want to learn more about this way, please join me in Balance. I teach you all about fasting, but also controlling your blood sugar levels, regulating that, as well as focusing on your metabolic health, because metabolic health is just in dire straits at the moment. Like, it is so important. We are having more and more autoimmune diseases, more and more cancers pop up, and it has a heavy influence, our metabolic health on these diseases. So that is another thing that we'll go into. I'll teach you how to metabolically switch properly and also eat well within your eating window and how to do that in an easy and sustainable way. But today we are talking about fasting, and when you're first starting off or first implementing it, say you're going 12 hours for the first time, three reasons why this actually might be hard for you. Because I have had clients come to me saying, I can't skip breakfast. I need my breakfast or I feel like crap by the time I get to lunch. And there's a couple of reasons. And this is really interesting if your body is doing this, because it is actually a signal that you need to listen into this and understand as to why. Because our bodies were designed to be able to cope this way. If you think back to the day where the men went off to go hunt for food and they had to bring back the food, we would then go hours and hours without food, without eating. We would sleep, we would wake up, we might not even be eating till dinner at night. And there is a reason for us being able to survive this long while doing that. And it is because our bodies were able to cope that way. And that's where I teach you in Balance all the different things that our body is going into at different points throughout a certain fast. Like, for example, at 24-hour fast, our stomachs were actually developing stem cells into the stomach lining. And the reason for that is because your stomach's getting you prepared for food again. So that's just amazingly clever in itself. Like, we forget how clever our bodies are. And this is one reason I love fasting, because it forces you to tune into your body again, understand it again, and listen to the signs and symptoms and the cues that it's giving you. But 3 reasons I always check off first why you might be struggling to fast for longer than 12 hours. Let's go into number 1. Number 1 is because you may be having a mineral depletion or deficiency. So I forgot to mention this in the last episode on building muscle with fasting. It's all fine and well to exercise in a fasted state, but you have to remember that it is depleting your minerals so much faster than before. Our mitochondria too is just kind of on overdrive. It's being depleted in that time as well, and that is your body's energy source. So we need those minerals to keep up our energy. So if you're experiencing things like headaches or you're exhausted, so when we fast, we should actually be having more energy. I'm in a fasted state right now, and I've just done a podcast interview. I've done my last podcast episode, and then I'm now recording another podcast episode, and I'm still buzzing. I still have lots of energy. So you should still be having energy when you're fasting. If you're not having energy, then that is a sign. There are points, I'm going to go into like little technicalities here, but there are points while you're fasting where you might hit a slump, and that's just your body moving over into that different energy state. But it shouldn't last longer than like 30 minutes. You should be able to get past it, 20 minutes really, and then you're feeling so much more energized and you get that buzz again. If you're not feeling that whatsoever at all, then that is a sign of mineral depletion, meaning that you need to re-energize those minerals. So there's lots of different like supplements and things that you can take for if you are fasting. I have them all up on my website under wellness tools. I love the LMNT sachets because they're just easy. You literally just pop them into your water. They have the magnesium, the sodium, and the potassium in there that are going to give you that boost of energy and make your fast so much easier. You'll notice a huge difference. Yes, they taste salty and they come in different flavors. I have the watermelon flavor, which I love, but yeah, they can take a bit of getting used to because at the start it can taste like so salty, but it's so worthwhile because it just gives you that energy and makes you go for longer, and you realize it's just your minerals depleting, and you can't help that with fasting. Like that just happens. I will also go into this a little bit that I forgot to mention in the last episode, but for anyone listening that is in their perimenopause phase or menopausal, you also have to be careful before you are exercising that you aren't so much as in a fasted state. So if you choose to exercise, it's actually probably best for you to eat a small meal before, 30 minutes before. There is an amazing doctor out there that has a lot of information around this. Her name is Dr. Stacey Sims. You can go have a look at her stuff. Her and Dr. Mindy Pelz did a really good podcast one time because Mindy's all about the fasting and fasted states, and she helps perimenopausal women and menopausal women have a smoother transition to that time with fasting. But then Stacey, on the other hand, she does a completely different approach. She's a lot more for people who are exercising and saying that they should be eating and not fasting. But they did a really good podcast together because it really contradicts the other. Like one's saying you should fast, one's saying you shouldn't. But they were saying it's all circumstantial. It's all, at the end of the day, depends on your body type, depends on your goals, depends on your lifestyle. That's why I always say fasting's a tool and you just pull it out of your toolbox. But anyway, Dr. Stacey Sims, she emphasizes that it's actually important for women in perimenopause or going through menopause to actually eat a small amount 30 minutes before they exercise, because their estrogen levels are declining more rapidly than ever before. So the body needs a little bit more assistance in that circumstance. For women in their 30s and 40s that are fasting before they exercise, their body knows that it's not in starvation mode, so it doesn't like kind of shut down. So it does go for those other places in the body and goes and uses that fat up and uses that as energy. But for the women that are going through perimenopause and menopause, because their estrogen is declining so much, their body kind of has more of a freak out when they're in that fasted state when they're exercising. And instead of going to that stored fat, it might just hold on to it because it might freak out thinking they're in starvation mode and need to hold on to it for this, obviously. Because when you're going into exercising, your body doesn't know that you're exercising. Your body just thinks that you're going into this fight or flight mode. So it's holding on to that for you in case you need to use that later on. It's a survival mechanism, but it's more so for those women that have those declining estrogen levels, which is why any woman, it's always very important to check your levels. And I highly recommend the Dutch test. I love the Dutch test for my clients. But yeah, we'll go into that in another episode. So I just wanted to put that in there because it is circumstantial with fasting. So make sure for the women that are perimenopausal or menopausal that you are eating 30 minutes before you're exercising, because it will actually send a signal to your hypothalamus that helps to stabilize hormone production, reduce cortisol, and make sure that you have more energy throughout your workout. But women younger, in their 20s, 30s, 40s, you can fast before you exercise. You don't need to worry about this so much. Going back though to the number one reason, mineral depletion. So the number one reason why you're struggling to fast is because minerals. So we need to replenish those. Now, number two is toxic overload. If you are implementing the minerals and you're still not finding that it's making a change, I want you to have a look at what's going on in your life. What products are you using? What are you eating? And you need to do a big overhaul. This can take tiny steps, I recommend starting with your food. Start getting into the habit of reading the ingredients on your food. Something I'm doing at the moment that I feel like is what my clients kind of wanted, so I'm doing it on my social media at the moment, is making posts once a week to show you healthier packaged options from the supermarket, but I'm giving you the ingredients list there. So it's making you get into the habit of reading the ingredients list. When I teach clients how to read a nutrition label, I don't even go to the nutrition table. I don't even start with that. I say just start with the ingredients. Turn the product over, look at the ingredients and go, can I get these ingredients myself and literally recreate this product? Do I know what all of these ingredients are saying? Are there a bunch of words in there, numbers and letters and all different, capitalized and not capitalized? Like, does it look funky? Well, that's probably a chemical, and the chemical in there is probably not so good for you. We need to think back to natural ways of eating, like back in the day. I'm sure when they were cooking and making their food, they weren't putting in preservatives and chemicals. So look at the ingredients. Get into the habit of looking at those ingredients, because those ingredients are the chemicals. They're going to get into your body's cells. They're going to be blocking that estrogen that is trying to be produced, and instead you're going to either have excess estrogen or not enough estrogen, which is then going to go back to the mineral depletion, but it's also then going to affect the way you fast, because your body is not going to feel as good when it's fasting. When you're fasting, your body has all those toxins stored within it, in its cells, deep within the cells, that it makes it feel more exhausting for you than feeling energized, because your body's like working overtime to try and get rid of them. And especially for some things, this is why, a little side note, it's great to have a regular period, because it's really good to have that regular bleed. What it's doing is we are getting rid of plastics that are in little microplastics. That's also coming out when you bleed. So it's good to have that regular bleed, but what is hard for the body to get rid of is those chemicals, those forever chemicals. One mineral supplement I really like is, they're called Beam Minerals, BEAM Minerals. And I've been using that product now for 3 months. I actually need to top up now. I've finished it. But it helps you get rid of those heavy metals within the body that you can't get rid of heavy metals through when you bleed, when you shed. This is a really good option, because heavy metals are literally just in everything at the moment. And that is just one thing that, even for me, I don't prioritize as much. I just make sure I can eat as whole foods as possible, and make sure if I am buying something packaged, I understand the ingredients, make sure I'm getting more fiber than sugar, that kind of thing. But when it comes to heavy metals, it's literally in so much of our foods and our soil now that it's pretty much impossible to stay away from. So I use these supplements you literally just mix it in your water. It tastes like water, and that's going to help get rid of those heavy metals, and it'll help your fasting become so much easier. I promise you. And you can have it while you're fasting too. So you're going to feel so much better when you have those minerals. Really look into it. I love the lady came on an episode with Dr. Mindy Pelz on her podcast, and she went into it, and she uses like bioavailable minerals that actually match the body, so it's easier for the body to take it in. I just love it, and I love what she stands for. So highly recommend to looking into that if you're struggling to fast, because that is going to be a big game changer for you. And number 3, if you're struggling to fast, how is your stress levels? How are your stress levels? How is your sleep? Because these are two big impacts that are going to make it so much harder for you to fast. Believe me, I know when I have a crap sleep and I'm planning on fasting the next day, it is so much harder for me. Sleep affects you so much, because if you're not getting enough sleep, your body's going to start producing more cortisol. And then the cortisol, that's burning energy. Like, no wonder you're exhausted. So what in your life is causing you stress? Are you stressed out? Are you doing too much? Listen to the last episode. I was a bit on how to be productive, but I also, reminded you to bring the joy into life. What things are stressing you out that you might need to have a look at, and how can you make it better or make it easier for you? Also, with your sleep is so, so important. How can you prioritize sleep more? How can you make it better? Do you need to create a night routine? This is important to your health. It's not just going to help you fast, it's overall important to your overall health. I highly recommend, I've said it numerous times on the podcast before, but the Stress Watch app, if you have an Apple Watch, get the Stress Watch app. It'll help monitor your HRV, which is your heart rate variability. That is a big game changer, because it literally will tell you when your body is in fight or flight mode and you need to calm down or you need to have some time out, whether that's stepping outside, as I have said before, getting that sunlight, doing some things that takes you out of the moment of those stressful moments and brings you more enjoyment, things that you love. Even just patting your dog, even just giving your partner a hug, because you know what that's going to do? It's going to bring on oxytocin, and oxytocin will cancel out all other hormones. So that is like the number one thing. It's going to balance everything. The only thing with oxytocin is when it comes on, it lasts about 10 to 15 minutes. So you need to then constantly keep finding these other tools that bring on that oxytocin. And it's the love hormone. So just be in love, be in that abundance, like surround yourself with people that make you feel happier. Listen back to Gabby and I podcast, our part 3 podcast, where we talk about environment, like what environment you're putting your body into. Make sure you surround yourself with people that inspire you, that uplift you, build you up. That is going to be a huge game changer, and it will make fasting so much easier. So if you are fasting and you are struggling to fast, even 10 hours, longer than 10 hours, you're like, oh, you're one of those people that say to me, I can't skip breakfast, I can't skip this, it's way too hard. Make sure that you look at these 3 reasons why, because there could be these 3 reasons. I'll also remind you too, women, remember that you can only fast at certain points in your cycle too. So if you're struggling to fast, you may be fasting in the wrong part of your cycle. That luteal phase, which is about days 20 and up until when you bleed, that is a big no-no for fasting. No fast there. 13 hours, if you're a pro faster, 13 hours max, no more than 13 hours. Our hormones do not like it. We're building up progesterone. Progesterone cannot handle it. And also during your ovulatory phase, I would advise you not to fast longer than 13 hours either, only because we do have progesterone creeping on the scene there. So we do need to be mindful of that. And we've got testosterone peaking at its highest, and testosterone gets developed from the same place that progesterone gets developed. So we also need to be mindful of that as well. Also, it's your ovulatory time, so enjoy, have fun. Eat all the foods that you want to eat. Eat breakfast, lunch, dinner. That is just one thing I thought I'd better reiterate there. That if you are struggling, make sure that you are doing it at the right time in your cycle. So fasting, just from when you bleed up until day 10, you can lean into longer fast, do whatever sort of fast you want to do in there. And then you do have that window of opportunity to fast on about day 16 to day 19. You have some time there where you can fast. At the end of the day, remember that this is all very broad advice. It does depend on your situation, your lifestyle, your body type, your goals. It depends on all of that. So if you come into balance, I can teach you a lot more around this and really personalize it to you. Plus, you have the support of other women in the group, so we can all lean on each other for accountability, to bring on that oxytocin, because even though we're just in a group that's online, you still feeding that oxytocin off one another. You can still get oxytocin off from a text message group, which is crazy. So I highly recommend look out for Balance. It's open now. Details in the show notes below. But other than that, I will leave you with that today. Please look after yourselves, look after your health, look after your mindset and your emotional health, your spiritual health, all of it, because you deserve it. You deserve the world. And I'm here for you every step of the way. Thank you for listening. And if you love this episode, please leave a rating or review. Otherwise, I will see you all in the next episode. Bye, guys.